me like that. And I was like, don't fucking talk to me like that. What's that? Order, I will eat. So go ahead and order whatever you want to.
Hey, Dave, it's Pat. The number on the Town of San Anselmo website has a Zoom number from last meeting. Is it the same every week for people who want to join in from the public, or is this the public one we logged in on?
No, something goes, on the main page is probably, let me see, let me go to it right now.
Yeah, it's the sananselmo.org, and then you just click on the open time, and then it's got information from the previous meeting, not this one.
I'll change that right now.
So
yeah, it went out in a bunch of emails correctly. This one was sort of the static one. I'll update it right now.
Yeah, it says June, whatever.
Okay.
So the number for this meeting is the one we logged in correct for the public, or is there a separate one for the public?
No, the panelists have a separate one. The public won't have their faces on.
Okay.
So the one that I sent an email out to like 6,000 people this morning with the correct one. I don't know how many people go on the website to find it, but I'll change it on the website right now.
All right. You want to just read me that number? I got somebody who wants to join.
Yeah, let me forward you the email real quick.
Oh, okay.
First. All right. The number is, today's number is 8953-519-8320.
Okay, that's for the general public, right?
Yeah.
853
895
519 8320.
98320.
98.
895.
Got it.
Yeah, okay.
Can you fools hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh my God, I finally got it to work.
Yay!
I'm such a freaking Luddite over here. My God.
Nice readers.
Hey, yeah, you know where I got those from.
Made it, Stacy.
Hey. Madge.
Madge.
Oh,
Madge.
Madge. Hey. Corgi. Hey. Saving the world from squirrels.
One bark at a time.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Sounds like my house.
Hi, Eric. Hey, neighbor.
Sorry. Stacy,
Eric!
Dave, thank you for the invite.
You got it?
Woo, woo.
Sean and
Woo,
Frank
woo.
and Pat.
Eric,
Sugarfoot.
good evening.
The deer.
Hey, Frank.
Yes,
Now that we're just sitting here doing nothing for a second, my Canaans that I always used to get from you,
you're what?
like those Canaan glasses that I
Oh,
always
yes, yes.
still make them in that pink color that I love.
I will check tomorrow.
I would like to have, I don't know. I left them at the barn. I'm not going to say somebody took them, but they're not there.
If they're not there, somebody took them.
I don't think the horses are wearing them. So
If you see a horse wearing it, then you know it wasn't someone.
yeah, that would be cool. That would make me laugh.
Stacy, I think you figured out how to use Zoom now.
Look at
I
me.
know.
Oh, are you proud of me?
I'm so impressed.
Whoop, whoop. It only took me like 15 minutes. I saw you guys and I was like, hey, you guys. I'm like, I can't. Oh.
All right.
Whoops.
To me, it crows.
Yeah, it's my house. Sorry. Better than
It's
the
all
dog.
ringing.
That's probably my fault because I feed those crows.
As long as we don't witness the sequel to The Birds, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crows can be very friendly. They become.
I love
they-
crows. I
Yeah.
love crows. They're amazing. Super smart.
Definitely.
Well, do we have everybody here? Is Pat here?
Pat's down. He's in my corner here, but it's just a picture of him.
Yeah, no, that's not him.
That's that ugly guy there.
That's a facsimile. So what do we got? There we go. There's the real deal. Well, welcome everybody. We might as well get going. I really appreciate all of your willingness to join and have a discussion about how the well, I don't know which way you want to call it. It's the opening up of downtown, but the closing of the street, how that has been for each of you and what your overall opinions are with respect to the wisdom of doing it or adjusting it or otherwise proceeding. I guess just preliminarily, it goes without saying, probably not to you folks, but for those who might be listening, please wear your masks and practice physical distancing. As we all know, because we pay attention, COVID is spiking And when people go out there, good action, Lori. You got,
May I suggest the accessory, if you put a little ribbon, you can just drop it down and then, there you go.
that's good. No, that's
It's an
why
accessory on an accessory.
yes. So what, Lori, why don't we start with you?
Okay.
What are your thoughts about the changes over the course of the last 3 months and the last 2 weeks?
So as you may know, I opened on February 2, so I've been closed longer than I've been open. So, but I really appreciate the accommodation that was made to allow for traffic on Saturday. I had my best day ever. I don't have, I make everything that I have in my shop. So it's only me. So I don't have, my goals aren't super big. I can only do what I can do myself. So I had a banner day. So now I have to keep up with my sales. So that's great. I really appreciate the parking in front of the shop that I share with Blanc. I think our customers, the customers that have been to my shop have really been thankful for that. And I also have noticed, because I sit in my window making hats, I've noticed there's a lot less U-turning that's happening, and it's a dangerous place for it to happen. So now people see the sign and then they drive and park somewhere else. So that's a good thing. I would urge the town to do more advertising. I know we can all do our own social media, but it helps if the town does what it can do as well. So as recently as yesterday, someone on Nextdoor was asking Frank, because Frank's been really, both Frank and Stacy have been phenomenal in terms of their promotion of things related to the town. People are still confused about it. So, you know, that the confusion is out there, understandably so, since we changed things up. But I really like it being closed on Sunday. I think it's lovely. I've gone down. I'm not open on Sunday. I need a day I need a day of rest, and I perhaps could be persuaded at some other point, if I can afford to get somebody in there to help me to be open. But for my sanity, I have to be closed that day. My relationship.
What do you think about what do you think about the block being shut down for eating in the evening? Does that interfere with your business?
It's been great. So I've been eating at I'm comfortable eating out, and I've every weekend I've been eating at Cucina, my lovely neighbor, and my sales, just in terms of the timing, it's just before that dining hour, has been the best. That's both Fridays and Saturdays. So it's really been helpful. I love seeing at the other end of the avenue, maybe word's gotten to you, Pat, but I've been calling it Pizza Piazza, and it's just absolutely lovely. And it's always got somebody sitting there. When I walk from Fairfax to my work, and what I really, really like is the hand washing stations. So it's like a ritual. I come into town, I wash my hands, I continue on down, and I just think that's just terrific.
Great,
So,
great. Hey, Stacy, thank you for being able to cut off your business day so that you could join us.
Well, I'm actually here. So if somebody comes to my door, you will see me dart away, but so far so good.
Well, in the meantime, what's your feedback?
So my feedback's slightly different than Lori's, because I am open on Sunday. I'm open 7 days a week, have been for 12 years. We had an absolutely dead Sunday. My employee, I called my employee a couple times and had her shoot some photos for me. It was just dead. So for me, I really have said from the beginning, I think it being open at night, like that 5 o'clock on, I think is brilliant. Because I think people, if they're gonna dine at one of the restaurants, are gonna come a little earlier maybe. Hey, let's go down to San Anselmo around 4:30, kick around the shops, get our reservation at 5:30 or whatever, sit down and eat. That's great. But when it's totally shut down, I mean, my clients are not happy at all. I've gotten tons of phone calls saying, hey, I couldn't get in, sorry. You know, my thing's a little different. I'm selling big bags of dog food. I'm selling 18 pounds of frozen dog food that somebody isn't gonna carry,
Right.
3 blocks. And
Right.
a lot of times for my clients, they're very used to the way that I am, where if they can't get a parking spot, which is, fairly common in San Anselmo, they just call me. I run their credit card and they pull up front and I put it in their car and they drive away. But
Right.
they can't do that when the streets are blocked. So
Right. So for you, your experience with the street blockage has been poor. You haven't liked it, right?
no, I never like it when the streets are closed.
All right. Hey, Eric, how about you?
Yeah, so, again, reiterating what my colleagues have said, I think the evenings are fine, on a couple of points. One, obviously, it's promoting and helping the restaurants, which we all need to survive for the health of the town and the community. And we want that as fellow business owners. We want to see everybody successful. And it really doesn't put out the merchants, in closing in the evenings. Even if we are closing at 5, which is maybe an hour, then some of us merchants close, but compromise is the name of the game. As far as during the day, our experience, we were closed this last Sunday. We normally are open 7 days a week. The Sunday before was so dismally slow that we, it was just painful. There was no sales. It costs us money to be open. We're paying staff. We just, we can't continue that way and have it and justify it, being open on a Sunday, and paying somebody if we're not going to have sales.
Yeah.
We haven't had feedback, from our customers complaining about parking or anything. I think obviously in the current circumstance, parking is not a challenge in San Anselmo, as we all know. You can generally find it, whether it be on the street or in the back parking lots or what have you. Normally, pre-COVID, it was hit or miss. I mean, most of the time I could find parking, but often I would just detour to the parking lot behind Kachina and ourselves automatically coming from San Rafael, because I knew that I probably wouldn't find something on the street, even if I was only going to be there for a few minutes or what have you. So what would be great, and this is certainly not a new suggestion, I know we've already punted that over to you guys in general, would be, if there's some way to build these parklets, and I don't want to say the word permanent yet, because I understand there's a lot of things that go into that word that have to be figured out long term in terms of it making sense and parking and everything else. But in the interest of compromise and making something work in the immediate right now for everybody, if we could get semi-permanent, like until the rains come, parklets for the 4 affected restaurants on the avenue. And Pat, I'll say 5 if Pat considers himself affected. I don't think so, because he's just outside and he has that park area that his patrons could utilize, if they wish. But certainly Hilda's, Coffee Roast has already done this, but Hilda's, Cucina, Valenti, and Stefano's. And I spoke with all 4 of them, and they have all expressed interest in certainly doing it during the evening. Of course, we know many of Hilda's doesn't, but otherwise the 3 of them have, maybe, or at least Valenti and Cucina have. And in talking with Donna, she said, well, for the foreseeable future, for lunch, I'll only be doing it on the bridge. I don't have the staff or anything, but potentially down the road in a few weeks or a month, it would be, if we haven't reopened inside, it might be nice to be able to utilize some streets. So it would be great to create a 24/7 space available for them, where they can leave the tables out if they wish. They can, if they're not worried about them getting stolen, or they can bring them in if they're worried about them getting stolen or whatever. And then what the town decides to do in terms of closing the streets in the evening just becomes more of a question of creating that ambiance. So, and resources available to do so.
So let me say, Eric, let me see if I understand you correctly. What you're suggesting is that the parklets, the spaces where people can eat that are in front of restaurants, that those are maintained, while at the same time automobile access to the street is maintained, so that people can get in and out of shops, and then at nighttime shutting it all down and opening it up to pedestrians. Do I read you correctly?
Yes, that is correct. And just
so let me ask Sean whether or not that's practical. Is it practical to have parklets and auto access at the same time, or are those mutually exclusive propositions?
They're not mutually exclusive at all. And actually, I've been encouraging all the restaurants that Eric named to do parklets. And I know Dulio did apply for one at Valente. Stefano's talking about it. Hilda's was interested, and Nev Hawk, who has a cafe, was interested. I don't know if you want to talk about what we actually have a grant opportunity that we're applying to tomorrow.
Not yet. What I just wanted to get, you'll have to excuse the background phone for a moment. I can't deal with it. Another sales call. Let me turn to Pat and get and then I'll get to you, Frank. I want to get each of your feedback about how you think all this has been going and what you think about the suggestions that have been made so far.
Thank you, Ford. Pat Townsley, owner of Creekside Pizza and Tap Room. Love the idea as an overall idea. The challenge is when you have the street closed down and the shops aren't open, then you have people coming downtown with an expectation that the shops are going to be open. And as we've seen kind of I don't want to say the death of retail because of e-commerce and the Amazons of the world kind of sucking up some of those things where you go in and buy those tangible goods. We have very few of those left now. And now we have, an architect on the street next to the gelato guy, next to a home designer, next to a home designer, next to a home designer, across the street from a real estate office, across the street from a real estate office, which are all closed. So if you have people coming down at any given time or day, these shops aren't open. So some of the feedback I get amongst many, also being on the Chamber of Commerce, I see stuff coming through. So why don't people post their hours? And I get it that we're in different times here, but there's many stores in town that have either conflicting messages on when they're open. We've had people come in where we have the open sign from the town of San Anselmo that says open for business on one of the 4-letter word signs, if you will, with the deer and the logo and branded and nice and clever and thoughtful. But people go like, hey, your sign says you're open. It's like, well, that's just the businesses are open. So I ended up taking those down because people gave me grief about that. So the consistent message, it's true. And you go like, no, that's just, never mind. I'll just take it down so we don't have to have this conversation. Sometimes you put up a post on Facebook and it just goes explosively viral on the negative side and you just delete it rather than comment on it because it's just a downward fight. So you close the street down with all the best intent and you say, hey, San Anselmo, the town of San Anselmo as a business entity has promoted this. They put effort and time and man hours and all this. They've created banners and signage, which is, I think, atypical of any kind of town or city. It's not technically a town's job to market for small businesses. They're supposed to be fixing roads and making sure public safety and all that kind of stuff. So I applaud the town for going way above and beyond the call of duty. When I opened up business and when I've been in business before, I don't expect the town to go to bat for me at all. I mean, I want them to be there and support in terms of, hey, yeah, here's your permit. Here's what we recommend. Here's some ideas. But I don't expect them to be hanging flags out and everything for me to be open. That's on me. So that's the way I run my business mentally. If it's this or a widget shop or whatever that is, I would be out there, putting a table out in front of my store on Saturday, Sunday. I would be there, especially on the first 2 weekends of a test. I would.
So Pat, let me interrupt you for a second.
Put that table out. Yeah, go ahead, Ford.
Is what I'm hearing you say is that while there were in general open for business signs, a lot of the businesses in fact weren't open, so it was kind of like hosting a party, but the host wasn't there. Is that what you're talking about?
That's part of it. I'm just talking about somebody coming up. Oh, there's an open sign. They drive by and then they're not open, or that sign is in the window. I'm not saying it as a negative, but I'm saying also business hours posted in the windows of a store, that a neon light that says we're open. I've seen it a couple times out my window. They got neonish sign and people go over to XYZ restaurant and they close. They just forgot to unplug the sign or something like that, and people are disappointed. So we've gone from a brick and mortar tangible retail environment, a lot due to e-commerce, and now we see a much more retrenchment because of nobody's able to shop or sell or open or have customers come in. Then we do this, hey, we're closing the streets down. Every merchant that can, please open. They either do or they don't open. People come down with an expectation of an experiential event
Right.
They don't get that, and they walk away kind of going, "Oh, well, I'm not going to come." So that first
So they-
week,
so they
a
don't come
freaking
back.
home run.
Generally speaking, they don't come back. Frank, let me hear from you. What do you have to add to this discussion?
So for me, I'll just speak for Week Optics. Our business was down 50% when the streets were open back up to cars this weekend, compared to the weekend where everything was open to just pedestrians and cyclists. And I do agree with what Lori was saying and a little bit what Pat was saying. I don't hardly agree with Pat about they shouldn't promote. I feel that if we're going to promote this, it needs to be there has to be ownership on both sides to make this successful.
What do you mean ownership on both sides? What does that mean?
Meaning, some people think the town should be promoting it, but I'm saying the merchants should be promoting it just as much. Like, I'm on social media, I go on Nextdoor. I did not see one other merchant post on Nextdoor, and it's not pointing out anything. It's just, if you want this to be successful, we all have to be involved in it. We all have to take ownership. That's what I'm trying to explain. And I've been saying this from day one when I spoke for it on the meeting that night. The other thing that I feel is, Saturday night. So what I did when the town council voted for this, I changed my hours to 11 to 7 on Friday and Saturdays to stay open. The only other shop that was open was Lori's Match Me Hats, and we both had business in the evenings.
Yeah.
Well, Blanc was open.
Well, last weekend you weren't though, Eric. I went by Saturday night. You were flat 5 o'clock. I think you guys closed.
No, they were open. They were open.
We were open.
Till 7?
Yeah, they were open.
We were open
Yeah,
till
they-
7, yeah.
They
On
closed after
Saturday?
8.
On Saturday?
I'll check our time clock logs, yeah, and our alarm logs, but yeah.
Interesting. I walked up and down the street, so I could be wrong. I did the video at your shop, Lori, and they weren't open when I was doing the video.
Well, Nancy had danced out with me just before or after that. She was there because I know we were dancing to the music that my stepson.
Maybe I just missed them. But I remember coming to do the video at your shop, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
I did a video of you at your shop with the jazz playing,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. Yes.
So you can look at the timestamp on that. So we don't need to have it check it. But anyway, that's what I'm trying to say. So people were saying they didn't want to stay open longer hours, then just open up later then and try to stay open a little bit later to have when people do come down and eat and stuff.
Well, that's it. What I think what you're talking about is the inconsistent messaging that Pat was referencing.
Yes.
That one of the things that's really important, and I think that's super hard. I mean, all the shops up and down the avenue, they're all individual people. They're individual owners, individual opinions. Some agree, some are team players, some don't care. I mean, you have a broad swath of differences, but if there's a core of people that agree and have basically the same point of view, which to me, I think I'm hearing is that the street closed down and the restaurants are open, bring people in, and logically when the people come in to eat, if there's shops to go poke around in before or after dinner, they're going to do that, and that's something that's constructive for downtown. That's one of the messages I'm getting from listening to you guys.
Can I say one thing, Ford?
Yeah.
So at least with me, it's just me. Like, I don't have employees, but for both and I think this is true for Stacy as well. We are under new restrictions with retail. So we have to really supervise our product, how people handle our product, how they interact with our shop space, etc. So I just want to make it clear, Pat, that it's not I don't want to go in the street. It's like we cannot go into the street. I can't because I have a specialty item that if I can't just let people handle it unsupervised or it's just not possible, right? So I'm trying as best I can to,
So Laura, you don't want to become the latest COVID hotspot?
No, I don't. And I struggle with, like, do I go get tested once a week? I mean, what do I do? Most of my customers, they come from Blanc, they're older folks. So the fact that they're coming to the shop and even entering is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's gotta be, for me, it's only working if it's one person at a time, period. I mean, it's a small space. My door is open. That's what I can manage under these circumstances, right? So it's a very, these are very special times. So the notion that we can do a whole street party with merchandise is just not doable. So, just want to make that clear.
So in terms of sort of how we've gone so far, I mean, how do you guys rate it, man? We get an A, B, C, D, F. Where's it at? Stacy, what do you think?
I think, well, first of all, so my shop has a Dutch door. My door has not opened to a customer since day COVID. And I can tell you that people come by my time and they're like, why aren't you letting me in? Why aren't you letting me in? It's like, I'm not letting you in because there's absolutely no way I can disinfect all the things you're going to touch in here when you come. And how am I going to do that? I can't put a whole, like, you know, antibacterial hood over my shop and hit go and disinfect it when you leave. So I think it makes it really difficult. And I think a lot of us, at least from the people I've talked to, a lot of us have a very feeling about comfortability. Myself personally, I have chronic asthma. If I get anything in my lungs, I wind up in the ER on a good day, like a good day. So there's no way I can run that risk for myself and my own personal family. But I also am really worried we're spiking, and we have not opened that heartily yet, and we're spiking so much. We let people come in, and if we invite people down and we put stuff out on the street, it's going to be a free-for-all, and then we're going to get shut down again. And if we get shut down again as merchants, we're going to lose a lot of people, and that's what I'm terrified about.
So what do you guys think? I mean, how do you, there's a real tension there between, and it's existed from the outset, between viable commerce and good enough medical quarantining, good enough distancing. What do you think the balance between those two very substantial pressures? How do you walk the line between those two things? What do you think about that?
I think a lot, unfortunately, and I said from the beginning, you know, I wasn't born to be a police officer, right? And I can tell you that a lot of people come to my door and they're not social distancing. They're halfway wearing their masks, all sorts of things. There's a lot of people who are being very good, but I would say it's a 50-50 split. It's not an 80-20 at this point. And I think a lot of people are tired of wearing their masks, tired of doing this. And I think as merchants, if we let them in our stores, then it's like an advocate when they're supposed to be coming into our store to, you know, to have this experience and support us and give us money, and we give them good service, and it's all a happy situation. It's not a happy situation anymore. Their mask, and you have to say, hey, John Smith, put your mask back on. And then, you know, it's just uncomfortable, and it's awkward, and it's a good business.
I know, but Stacey, you have a lot of charm. You just have to use your charm more specifically.
Yeah. It's a lot of charm. Where?
We've had a mixed experience. I'll say, you know, most of our customers are very cooperative. The one customer that threw a fit when we asked her to use hand sanitizer is a registered nurse on the front lines. And she said, that stuff doesn't work. It's useless. It's pointless. And you're wasting my time. And she stormed out in a huff. And we said, you know, please write the CDC then and explain your position to them, because we're just following requirements. Yeah. But, you know, it's, you know, by and large, our customer, we have reopened. Retail is clothing, you know, specifically is very tangible. You have to touch it. You have to feel it. You also have to merchandise it a certain way. So I have spoken with a multitude of merchants on the street to get their position who are selling different products, you know, whether it be Gil over at Amphora, who said, you know, with regards to my asking, would you consider putting product out on the street? And he said, no, not in your life. There's no way. As an olive oil shop, we're not going to put product out there. It'll go bad. We won't put product out on the street. We're not a flea market vendor. And we'd have to, I mean, so A, we'd have to double staff. B, you know, because we have to protect our merchandise because it will walk off. We do have shoplifting in San Anselmo, you know, and it does happen. and when you have stuff out on the street that's not even being monitored, that will increase. But it's also about presentation. So if we just roll out some racks and throw some clothes on it, it kind of looks a little schlocky, and putting it on the table, you know, again, it doesn't lend itself well to that. We have one table that we do display on in the restaurant, in the shop. And, you know, anyway, it's a challenge.
But with clothing, you have the same sort of struggle like Stacy has talked about and Lori has talked about in terms of the risks of having somebody who's contaminated and either knows it or doesn't know it coming in and handling stuff.
Yeah.
What in God's name are you going to do? How do you manage that?
So that's been a challenge, and the industry as a whole hasn't come together. You know, the retail clothing industry, when I look at what different large, you know, Banana Republic or Nordstrom's or Macy's or whomever, what they're doing, everyone has different policies. Some people are taking inventory and putting it, you know, if it's been touched or tried on, they're putting it away for 2 days and then they steam it. Some are just putting it right back on the floor. Some are steaming it and putting it back on the floor. None of these methods have been proven to be effective. So it's anybody's guess. In our case, we do quarantine it for a day, we steam it, and then we put it back out. But, you know, you know, and to answer your question, it's really tough. I mean, if we don't allow customers in the store, even though we have stuff online and whatnot, our experience, the experience that we've created, and as much as Amazon's or other online stores have tried to steal that business, we still run a successful business up through COVID in San Anselmo. And even with COVID, when the streets are open, things have been successful. But it's because we create a sense of community, and women want to come into the shop. They talk, they want to try things on, they want to touch and feel. And that just doesn't happen outside. It doesn't create a conducive space really for them to do that. So I think that's where you get some pushback with certain types of merchants, but I won't speak for everybody in town.
I really appreciate all of you taking the time to participate in this forum and provide feedback, because I mean, so I've been a council member for a long time, for 13 or 14 years. And early on, one of the things I did was to be the liaison with the town economic subcommittee. And one of the things that struck me pretty quickly was it wasn't the lack of unanimity. It was actually open conflict between a lot of people, or among a lot of people. And you know, now things are with online and e-commerce threats and alternatives on one hand, and then the kind of almost the kiss of death of COVID on the other. It's very, very tough. And so I think it's the more that there is agreement on the areas where there can be agreement, it's going to help everybody out. And so is it correct that in terms of how the town is approaching assisting the business community now, that it's a good thing to shut the streets down in the evening, and it's a bad thing to shut them down during the day? Is that a fair recapitulation?
Yes.
Yes, I think that's accurate, but I would like to add one thing, Ford. In speaking with, again, my fellow merchants, people are open-minded, and I think that, you know, as we said 2 town council meetings ago, you know, when we pleaded, please don't shut it down on the first weekend. It's because that was our very first reopening of in-store retail. Right. And we knew that we needed these streets to get people in and so on and so forth. I mean, that's what we know. That's what we figured and presumed. And sure, it's an assumption to a degree, but it's an intelligent or an informed assumption, you know, based on past experience with affairs and things like that, where we've seen what shutting down the street does for our businesses. But ultimately, you know, and that weekend proved to be just a ghost town during the day.
Right.
The evenings were slammed, which was awesome to see. And even our store, because we were open until 8+, both of those nights, all 3 nights on that first weekend. And we had plenty of people in the store. We only had 1 sale, so we couldn't justify it in terms of staffing up for that, right?
Right.
But we definitely have people, and how many people come back and buy something later on? That happens. I'll tell you, you know, I'll let you know a little trade secret, so to speak, right? That women, this isn't meant to sound sexist, but it's just a reality. They often don't spend a lot of money with their husbands around. And many of our customers come in and they intentionally split the charge across 3 different credit cards and some cash to make sure that their husbands don't catch on to what they're dropping. Okay, that's just, I mean, it's happened for the 15 years we've been in business. Okay.
Well, maybe you should have some marketing for some husband-free open time.
Right. Exactly. So anyhow, so it could be that some of those women were looking, you know, preparing their battle plan for the coming week. I don't know. You know, we didn't track it to that level. But, and I did, Frank, just as an FYI, I did check the alarm logs. My mother closed at 6:47 that Saturday. The only reason she would have closed is because it was dead for us. So, and people weren't coming in. But because, you know, she's not comfortable being there. She's 76. She's in the heart of the at-risk group. We don't have a staff that has come back. You know, we have some of our San Francisco staff has come over and helped out, and we hired a new person. But she's been on the front lines, as uncomfortable as it is for her. And, you know, and we've done extended hours on that first weekend all the way through. And on the second weekend, we were open into the evening, not to 8 o'clock necessarily, at least not on the Friday, on that Saturday, maybe on the Friday, I'd have to look. But anyhow, what I was saying though, Ford, was that the merchants that I've spoken with would be open to exploring closing on a Sunday after we get our feet, you know, firmly planted. So give us 3 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that. And if we're showing that evenings are a hit, I think that will even sell them a little bit more. We do have the challenge that has been brought up in this meeting, though, that of all of these disparate hours, right? Of the different
Yeah. Well, no, it's, you know, it's a work in progress, and you can't expect a whole lot of success all in one fell swoop at the outset. Pat, you have something to add?
Yeah, I just want to jump back to the question, how do we rate the town of San Anselmo for their efforts here? I give you guys an A+ for effort, for execution, for getting branding and putting the effort behind this. I mean, you got banners hanging across Bank of America there, or Wells Fargo. It's been an amazing effort. The new parklet, or the new park with the project where La Part was on Bridge Building 2 is phenomenal, temporary fix of something else that's coming along. So A+ there. Then we look at the avenue. We look at the avenue and we say, okay, right now, I'm just going to go around number. Out of 100% of the possible retail shops that we have there, there's 50% that are actually retail. And then we take that 50% and we say, well, only 50% of those are actually viable retail, and only 20% of those are actually open. So when you look at the whole canvas of downtown San Anselmo, and you have provided this outdoor mall for all day long, there's very few places that are open. And again, from the guest experience, people riding through town on their bikes in the daytime, they'll stop in the middle, get a bottle of water or something like that, look around, go like, oh, that's a cute, well, no, they're closed too. So what you've provided is a fabulous tapestry that isn't being utilized for a great number of reasons. And to Lori's point, yeah, you don't have enough staff. And I talked to Tim at Coffee Roastery. I said, you're going to stay open till 8 o'clock. He just doesn't have the manpower. He could do it. He, you know, physically and with the tables and all that, he could easily slide out there for an extra 3 hours if he had the manpower. So there's, for the food service side of things, you need to bring that staff on to do it. For retail, you need to bring a safe experience. And how do you do that? How do you get the other merchants from from Red Hill and Greenfield Avenue and Black Rabbit, they all hopefully got the message that, hey, you can put a tent up for the weekend, a no wall tent or a table, promote, here's a flyer, here's 20% off, or come to my shop. Maybe you're not going to buy, as Eric said, maybe you're not buying today, you're just window shopping, but you will come back. Here's a flyer to come back, or something to engage the person with, a takeaway where they've got your brand and they're walking away with something rather than, oh, it was a nice place, Santa Selma. Well, we went there, I don't know what happened. And you know, the memory of a bad thing will stick with a person much longer. If we have, you know, a person come into Creekside, for example, and have a great experience, they might tell one person. If they have a bad experience, they're going to go on Facebook, Yelp, Twitter, and tell 20 people. And that's just
next door.
kind of go to the downside of things. So from me, what I see from Creekside is, yeah, the nighttime thing works well. And, you know, if we're looking at from Creekside to Cucina has really maximized it. Donna's done a beautiful job right across the street from Town Hall. She put out flowers and trees and plants and the umbrellas. It looks magical down there. But from Donna down to my end, where we're just using the bridge building, it's nothing. And people are going, okay, it's just a big stroll and a ghost town kind of scenario. Unfortunately, just due to you take the number of retailers versus those shops that are not retail. And then you break that down further and further and further. And finally, you just have a small handful of businesses that can or cannot be open for safety reasons or practical mechanical reasons or staffing reasons that they can't be open either in the daytime or nighttime. And it's kind of a hit or miss. If we had 100% coalition and we had 80% occupancy, and of that 80% occupancy of buildings, we had 80% of those 80%, then we'd have a viable walking district. Right now, we just don't have the viability. We don't have the shops. And another point of this call was, you know, we're looking at past, present, future. What does the future look like? What do we want to drive? What does the town kind of want to message? What does the Chamber of Commerce want to message? What shops are going to be complementary and successful moving forward in the, you know, 1 to 5 year timeline here? What shops can go in and would even go in this environment? I don't think we're getting out of this anytime soon with COVID. So how do we as a town, as individual merchants, how do we support each other? How do we find those businesses? And I know, I'll be real quick, I know there was a study done a year or 2 or 3 years ago about what businesses would be viable. I don't know if it was a town commissioned report, and one of them was bring a hospital in and an automotive dealership, things that didn't really congruent with a small town and space and feeling. So how do you get those merchants who will be successful, which will be open and sell something that the community wants? That's the other side of things. You may be selling something, but nobody wants it. Who knew that there would be, in my opinion, a demand for hats? But Lori has absolutely nailed it with her hat store. It's adorable, it's cute, it's quaint, and it's the heart of Santa Selma. It's beautiful. And she's done a great job in addressing a certain niche, and she's got it. Yeah. How do you find other businesses moving forward that will pay the rents that are out there and look to the open businesses as a road to success? Success leaves clues, right? So what are each one of the businesses that are now open and have been for X amount of months, years, 15 years in Eric's case? What can each new business operator come in? If it's the coffee cart project down by Black Rabbit, or if it's whatever, what common denominators are each of the open businesses that are out there having right now that a new business would want to come in and be, you know, quick process, quick approval, and be able to get into that shop and open it up? Maybe it becomes a pop-up kind of destination where buildings are just doing pop-ups or whatever that drive interest in community and people downtown and have something compelling that the consumer will actually want. So I'll stop.
Let me cut you off right there.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
So this is the picture I get is that there are a number of very committed established or getting established businesses in San Anselmo, basically not a lot and maybe and not as much as would be preferable. And so it seems to me that what makes the most sense would be to narrow the focus in terms of time, is narrowing the time focus down so that when San Anselmo is open on the street to the extent it can be, it really is open because people want to come. People want to participate. People want to eat out. People want to go into shops. people want to walk around, people want to spend money, but but being able to have the kind of focus that where there's a slice that provides that opportunity that doesn't break the bank, because that's from the business side. It's breaking the bank, whether it's having to hire extra people, difficulties with people trying on clothes in the time of COVID. I mean, what in God's name are you going to do with all this stuff? So that's one thing, Pat, that your comments raised for me. And the other is that San Anselmo used to be a town that was comprised of a number of completely unique stores.
Yep.
that had tons of character, that were one of a kind, where people would come from far and wide just to go to. And me, not being a big Christmas person, I could start at 9 o'clock on Christmas Eve, and by noon I could have all my Christmas shopping done and have good presents for everybody and for a lot of people, because of the type of diversity. And that's a luck of the draw thing. I mean, there's no way. How do you seed the ground to attract plants like that? I mean, how do you do that? Dave, what are you going to say?
I wanted to let you know a few people are interested in speaking from our participation.
Let's hear them.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Carla, will you go down the list, starting with Nancy? Nancy, we're gonna let you speak. You can unmute yourself.
No, we're not going to let you speak. It's your right to speak. We're glad you're going to speak. We're going to provide you with a chance.
There we go. Thanks, Ford.
Thank you, Ford. Okay. Nancy Altman. I am the flower basket lady. And I'm just listening to all the merchants here. I'm a former merchant. One of my suggestions is that the Chamber of Commerce have a Zoom meeting. All these merchants need to come together at a Zoom meeting, Chamber of Commerce, and talk about their wishes and how they want to move forward in street closures and traffic. And a while back, I heard that they were going to maybe try and make San Anselmo Avenue a one-way street, which would allow for these parklets, which I think would be year-round and well-used, and maybe help Stacy and some shops that need to have the drive-by and pick up those 20, 80-pound bags of food. Anyway, that's my take. I think it's more the merchants coming together and talking to each other, because we have the best town in Marin. I think it's the greatest, and we can only get better through all this. I mean, we have this beautiful downtown park, and the town has been phenomenal. And I can't thank Rich Burns enough for coming up with all the beautiful signage, and it's been wonderful. So. That's it.
Thank you, Nancy.
All right, next we have Majid, and I believe I saw Barbara on there. I don't see her anymore. Majid, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good, yes, we can.
Yeah. Majid Nazari, owner of Ludwig's Fine Wine in San Anselmo, since it's been in my family since '77. I just want to say one thing. When all of this started, I was 100% behind it, because I thought, you know what, I'm willing to give up, or willing to take for the rest of the merchants in downtown San Anselmo if it's going to benefit them. And I assume it's going to benefit all the merchants in San Anselmo this closing. So Saturday, the first weekend this happened was a Father's Day weekend. Traditionally one of the busiest weekends we have. That weekend, the streets were shut down for the whole weekend. Our sales were down compared to the previous weekend. I wanted to, after some comments and some discussion, I want to thank Sean and Dave for actually pivoting and coming up with that maybe we should not close every single day during the day. And that following weekend, we had a fantastic Friday evening. We had a great Saturday and great Saturday evening. They were actually a couple of our busiest days. So this thing is positive, but not in not the way everybody envisioned it to be. Again, I have a particular business that is, again, the way we run our business now because of COVID is we do a lot of online ordering, phone ordering for curbside pickup. And, there's the way people are buying things. Nobody wants to come in and buy 1 or 2 bottles. Everybody's coming buying multiple bottles, multiple cases. And they're not, a case of wine is 40 pounds. So for a 40-pound case to be, for somebody to have to carry that 2-3 blocks, it's not possible, or it's hard. So I noticed that immediate benefit to my business by not having to shut down on Saturday during the Saturday. I had a very great Saturday. And again, the whole thing, it's the evening being shut down. It's actually a lot of fun. I mean, my wife and I both have enjoyed multiple meals, multiple nights, sitting outside in front of some of our favorite restaurants in Marin, Valenti, Cucina, and it was a lot of fun. But one thing that seems to kind of made me really kind of riled me is I don't need to be told how to run my own business. I don't need to be told how to market myself. I mean, I've been running this business since '77 with the help of my father, and we do a lot of our own direct marketing. We do a lot of our own website sales. So we have a very successful direct marketing and sales that draws a lot of people to our store and into the town of San Anselmo. So, and having a unique business as a liquor store is, again, having the idea of me putting in a booth or a table outside, it's impossible. First of all, it's against my license. I won't be able to sell any alcohol outside of the store. And the whole the health aspect of it. And it's difficult to have bottles of wine and beer outside and everybody touching it. When we allow one person at a time to come in the store, then they're not allowed to touch anything. We actually follow them, shadow them. And then when they ask for something, we'll grab it for them, and then we'll process the order that way, and they go up in front. So I am 100% behind this closing of downtown San Anselmo, especially evenings. During the day, it does not work for me, and from what I understand, it doesn't work for a lot of merchants. But I think it's great the town of San Anselmo, the council member, and the administration are willing to listen and kind of understand some of the concerns we have and work with us. I think together we can come up with a solution that's going to be benefit to everyone in San Anselmo. And so that's my take on this.
Thank you, Majid. Appreciate that.
Okay, next we have Joyce Brown. Joyce, you can unmute yourself.
Here we go. Hi there, guys. Hope all is well with you. I am sheltering in my place in Sonoma, but I just want to bring up a point. I've been in San Anselmo for 36 years, was on the board of the chamber for almost as long. One of the things that used to bring our community together was that we were the capital of the antique business. And people would come from all over to come to the downtown San Anselmo. Once we lost those businesses, it was like one at a time. They were replaced by such a mix of businesses that it did interfere with people wanting to come down and open. And plus, we got a lot of the same hairdressers, the same stores. But we did venture at one time about closing the street down. And what we found is like the dog food, that was difficult, as well as for people with cleaners, as well as those people that have physical needs. It was difficult for them, as well as the cost of being able to stay open. But I hope there's some solution coming up, because we're still not open. We were going to open July the 2nd. Got a notice that we will not be opening now. This is the third time. I have no idea how long it will be, but we're anticipating and we're hoping to open maybe in July. So wish you all luck. I still come down to beautiful community.
I think that Thank you, Joyce. You kind of ended with a crash and burn there.
I did. I have a question for you, Ford.
Uh-huh.
That now's not the time, but I wanted to find out about the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I know.
There are a number of responses to that, and this is not the context to respond to that, but I'm happy to talk with you or anybody else about that.
Yeah. If you could give me a call, I would sure appreciate it.
Okay, good to hear from you, Joyce.
You too. Wish you well. Bye.
All right. Dave, you're muted.
Thanks, Ford. We have no more attendee questions, but I noticed that Lori from the panelists had her hand up. So Lori, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. So I have some other ideas that I wanted to float with you forward. One is for the Sunday thing, there are things we could do as a community to bring people downtown that don't necessarily involve, well, we'll just get people into the town. So I've been speaking with someone who's an older citizen, my former middle school teacher, Sue Ellen Lamort, and this has to do with you, Stacy. She mentioned that maybe we could do a dog day parade perhaps in August. Something that would benefit Stacy, that would be a substitute for a parade that we can't have at the 4th. But anyway, so she and I are scheming on that.
Let me tell you,
obviously a
Lori,
socially distanced thing.
one thing really quick, Lori.
Yeah.
I used to have a dog show every year during the country fair days in September.
Yes.
I won't tell you why I stopped. It doesn't matter. But it was another town merchant thing, which we're moving past having any problems with that ever again, starting with this meeting. But it's too hot. It's too hot on the pavement in the summer dogs.
Well, early morning kind of a deal, maybe Sunday morning.
All right.
Kind of.
We'll talk. We'll talk.
So anyway, I reached out to Park and Rec, to Little Tree, that which is operating classes for children, and the idea being that you could take up the street space for some, street chalk painting or something like that. It was an idea to bring people into the town for an activity appropriately, executed under the circumstances, but perhaps not right away because we're scaling everything back. So it was just a thought of some way to use the streetscape that would get people into the town and give that community feeling. So I have the 3 wishes. I think I've shared this with the Economic Development Committee, but these are sort of long-term projects for, one, a moratorium on further use of avenue level offices. It's just killing retail. Number 2, we have to invite the businesses that aren't fully open, or I call them fake, that aren't really operating at all, to get operating. And there is positive ways to do it. There are, negative disincentives, but that has to be dealt with. And finally, I'm proof that you can bring in new businesses, and perhaps we have to think in terms of thematics. I think that Joyce had brought up a really great point of, we can bring in things that are artistic. It would bring, new life into the town. So things that people need. So I also do men's wear, men's hats, and there's a need for men's things. So, and there are men in the community, and they want to buy things. I do know this. They might not want to, we don't necessarily want them going into Eric's shop. They can come see me, but that's something to look at. I did reach out.
They may want to go to Eric's shop.
They
we
might.
We love it when they come in and buy gifts.
Yes, exactly. And gift certificates, etc. So, but I do think that it is a responsibility for all of us to reach out to try to bring things in. And to that end, Ford, I know well one of the commercial landowners, and I've reached out to him, and he's willing to talk to some of the other folks in town who have empty spaces, and we need to pursue that. He's a good civic-minded person who wants to help us. And this is the owner of the building that has sugar, and there is a new merchant that's going into the shop that Shelley has just left, the lingerie shop. So he's expressed an interest in helping us out, and we can pursue that. But these are obviously, these three things are long-term projects, but the town needs to act on it under this emergency power. I think we need to take those steps and not dilly-dally, because there are other businesses that are just, well, we know for certain one other clothing store is about to go out, and I think Attila is hanging by a thread. So we have to act for retail. And finally, final point, you know, all of us are doing some social media. I have, you know, I'm a new business, so I only have, you know, who's discovered me. But I do notice that, say the Marin Magazine, which is a pretty wide circulation, they're only publishing on restaurants and not on retail. So darn it, they need to be supporting retail. So I just put that out there as a problem. So
that's a challenge. Sounds good. Hey, Pat, what do you got?
Yeah, just a couple of quick things that are super immediate. Let me take off my Creekside hat and put on my Chamber of Commerce hat. If anybody didn't know, we have every Wednesday of every week, we have at 8 a.m. a call. If you want to be on that invite list, and it's for local merchants, it's a networking opportunity. Today we talked about the San Anselmo marketing side of things. So we have a Wednesday meeting. It's a 30-minute meeting, starts at 8 o'clock. You can find more information at sananselmoconnect.com. That's sananselmoconnect.com. And you can get on that mailing list, and it's open to everybody. It's not just merchants. It's anybody who wants to join in on that and give some input. We do focus on the merchants, and we have them go first in kind of a Business Network International style, talking about their businesses. And today we were talking about what we're going to do with the funds. And I'd like to also remind everybody that July 4th is the last day to accept funds. We're doing fundraising. We're trying to raise $100,000. Of that $100,000 we're having to raise, for people who aren't familiar with this, you can go to San Anselmo Fund, that's San Anselmo FUND.org, and learn a little bit about more what we're doing. 50% of it is going to $1,000 grants to qualifying San Anselmo brick and mortar businesses. The other half of the money that we'll raise goes to a massive marketing campaign, and we will be talking to Marin Magazine also. And today we were talking about what's that going to look like, and we're going to have people from Hal Rainey, and we're going to have creative on this thing, and we're going to have a fabulous thing. And I'd like to say, for those of you who can network this a little bit more, we have basically 48 hours. There's a countdown timer at sananselmofund.org on how much time we have. For merchants, anybody merchant on the phone today as a brick and mortar business, you can apply for the loan. Go to sananselmofund.org, download the one-page application. All you have to basically do is fog a mirror and get $1,000 provided we have the money. Now, 13,000 of this came from the town of San Anselmo, so we are immensely grateful for that. Thank you, Dave, for signing that order over, and the town council for.
And don't say the town never does anything for business in San Anselmo.
Exactly. This is why I'm bringing this up. Also, the county is also now on the hook, because we had to raise basically 3 times what the county was going to offer us, $13,000. So we had to raise $37,000. If we take into account the $13,000 from the town of San Anselmo, and they knew going into this that half of that's going to go to local merchants and the other half is going to go to marketing. So the town is putting money behind this. They're putting some gas behind this thing. And we get 13 from the town, we get 13 from the county. As of today, we are, I believe if Benedetto did his numbers right, we are at $67,000 right now of $100,000 ask. So $67,000. Half of that's going to go to, give it 30 small businesses getting $1,000 each. Now, some business goes $1,000, whatever. Another $1,000 to a smaller business or a business that's lean or one that's trying to reopen. It's substantial, and it can really help. And if you want to apply, you need to get the applications in by July. It needs to be in by July 3rd. And we'll see what happens after that if we collect more money and we expand that out. So please, everybody, jump on that thing. If you want to boost the fund, tell people about it. Tell them about the sananselmofund.org page. Get them to take action. They basically have 48 hours, and everybody's on.
Okay, we got the message, Pat.
If anybody's already on vacation, they're on their
Got
ski
the
boats up in
message.
Tahoe or whatever's going on, get on that network and say, please help. We need to get this money. We need that $100,000. So let's get there. And we cannot wait to help small businesses and then do this big marketing campaign. So please, Dave, right there, please join us on the Wednesday morning calls at SanAnselmoConnect.com. We'll see you there. Thank you, Dave. You're on.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify.
Hold
I think
on.
you,
Just a second. So we're nearing that. We've reached the end of our hour. I'll get to you in a second, Dave. But first, Frank, you've been awfully quiet. Do you have any parting words that you would like to say? You got to demute yourself. Unmute.
I got it. No, I mean, I respect and really want all of us to be successful through this. And, you know, I'm the opposition to a certain extent. I felt that we needed a little bit more time to build this. I felt, you know, I understand that it was maybe the bad timing with Father's Day and us just opening again, but this is something that takes a little bit of time.
It's the other.
And so the feedback that I did receive from some of the people that I spoke to as well, because, you know, is that, you know, they I know the food truck wasn't a big hit with the merchants, but the restaurants didn't have too much of a problem with it. And people came down looking for it the next weekend. But unfortunately, they had a bad experience when they came on the street, so they didn't want to come back. And I felt that it just took a little bit longer time. And you know, my feeling is no one's telling anybody how to market their business. You know, what I would suggest is if we want it to be successful, all of us have to do input and help get it to be more successful. That's the point I was trying to make.
All right. Appreciate that. Dave?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out when Pat was talking, he mentioned small business loans, just as a real quick, these are small business, I want to clarify, these are grants.
Yeah.
Okay, wanted to make sure.
Here's $1,000. It's yours. There's no payback, nothing. Thank you, Dave.
You got it.
So that's a pretty good thing. All right. Well, we're at the end of our hour, and I want to thank Lori and Eric and Pat and Stacy and Frank and Dave and Sean and me. I think this was constructive. It was good to hear, and you know, what's the saying they say in AA? Progress, not perfection.
And I think it's keep coming back. It works.
It is keep coming back. So thanks for coming down to share this hour with me and with our citizens and with each other. I really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks for having us on.
Thanks, you guys. Bye.
All right.
Hi.